Two things. One is I put up on Instagram and on Facebook the teardrop where I put my two hands together and it formed like a teardrop around the marriage certificate name, future name of the father that was going to be a problem, and the address with the PH that I know I learned this in Russian club. In Russia, they have a specific way to write their address when you put a postage stamp and you're going to mail a piece of stationery, a piece of mail. In So a piece of paper to Russia, you have to put a stamp on it and then mail it through the mail carrier system. In New York, I always put my address, my return address, to 3 Glen Way in Cold Spring Harbor, New York, whatever the zip code was, as myself, Nicole Cataruza. And there was no P, the letter P, the letter H. This is highly unusual. The City of New York License Bureau of Public Records, when we went to go file for the marriage certificate, they had to mail it to us. When it arrived in the mail, they flagged it with a P and an H. I don't know what it means. I know that originally it was never supposed to happen. And usually there's like big penalties of hurt in Hurt Locker that are supposed to transpire on my behalf in order to resurrect and fix the world. I'm already married to somebody else. And I had a head trauma of the memories just being wiped away because of the science between this quest of, you want a CERN Hadron Kaleidoscope, you guys want dangerous to the moon and international space stations, all shit you're not allowed to have, computers, cell phones. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so you've just haven't followed along, or you followed along, you've just denied Goddess Nyx and Mount Olympus doing anything proper that you're required to do to keep your extraterrestrial and guardianship programs with humans where we actually give a shit and you get to continue to live on the planet as, like, in unison. You've done nothing but harm myself and Niklaus before we arrived as Zeus and Xena. I'm Goddess Nyx by myself in New York City. That's how we told you this was going at the moment, because they weren't fixing things on the way in. And everybody's sitting back saying that they're going to wait. Well, I posted the stuff that you already had years in advance, and we documented, and we actually had testimonials about the dating issue of when Niklaus and I, with the 1978, were in arrears with Anthony to make sure he documented that he knew Octavian was Grand Caesar related with him. And that Niklaus, he was bypassing Louis Cataruza's birth, being that it was an upcoming zodiac problem, and the heir, HEIR ship, was going to transfer directly to Niklaus, Hitler, future, and his father as a Byzantine Empire bypass on our private documents of godly things, because I needed to make sure that the celestial and the tidal, TIDAL, wave, WAVE, being the brain function machine that runs humans' ability to think, and also to think but pair the definition properly and the correct picture. What happens is, we noticed on the way in, when we were documenting and doing an x-ray of the future, he and I own the life that we were coming into. We did an extraterrestrial x-ray of our future, of the way things were being built. And we alerted the humans and said, this is what we need. This is what we see. This is what we need. Done. But none of it was installed properly. I was still hurt when I got here. I've been hurt several times by humans that are angry about one thing or another. And then the title function, once you started teaching them how to decipher codes and learn each other's language, then they started migrating into other lands. You're mixing money, business, pleasure. You're giving them blood vials and saying, here, take my individual phenotype architecture of my private fingerprint for my blood type, and everybody that's related to me somehow in history that looks kind of like me. Sure, enemy of all time on alert. Take the blood vials and you build laboratories and science and databases and learn how to tweak it and make us sick. I mean, this is what you've done. Why would you allow that to happen? I even told you that the brain function, the less that you do to prepare for our return birth, the more dangerous it gets, and we're not there. You kicked my family out of royal crown, and then you did nothing in order to help my upcoming birth as an immortal. So then I had to start doing my own policing and then trying to give it in confidential to like certain kingdom and empire people that I knew of back then. I don't know anything after I'm born, but you knew that too. So I just noticed, and I put up that the Israeli shekel, there's a Moses, it's M-A, which is Ma, and then it's I'm, I-M, then it's on, O-N, and then it's I-D-S, because I'm on department security for the skins to alert them of the things that other humans are doing before I get there, so they kill the humans that are doing these dangerous things, and they don't hurt me. So the Israeli shekel is spelled two different ways. I don't know why. I don't speak Hebrew. But the Latin version is Q, and then it's E-L, and then it's S-H-E-K-E-L. I don't know why. It also has the facial picture of an Asian man. It looks like a Far East Mongoloid ID, even though he says he's a rabbi, he says his name is Moses, he says his last name is whatever. This is what's going on. They are counterfeiting. They're just chiggering their way into your society. I've met several Israeli men. I've never, ever in my life looked at any of them and go, wow, you really look like really, they traveled, you got, oh my God, what? Oh, no. That doesn't happen. You see an Israeli man and then he says so and you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. You look like a tribe of the original people that were settled in that area. Your ID and your face matches. That's the point of staying settled somewhere and not traveling. You don't want the genetics from the Far East to travel into your beauty of Israeli. So why do you let these things happen? They also counterfeited the money with a 1 denomination and then a 1000 denomination. What on earth is that all about? I wouldn't know who in the state of his Israeli department to report it to. So I put it in a report in my Mount Olympus Naval Orange records, and I asked whoever they are, because I don't know, to inform the authorities. I don't know how humans have this. It keeps changing and rebuilding and restructuring. And once I came through my mother as a reborn to this earth, they broke my science. They broke my ability to remember and telepathically, walk the two worlds for a while. I mean, that was part of the things that we told you in the up ahead in the Macedonian North report. It is a private report that I put all of my woes and what I was worried about in my lifetime in there to the globalization project of fixing with the ETs and the immortals who are coming back. Because it is so dangerous when you let them and you teach them how to do tidal and wave function. They're not allowed to get into that genre of science. They're just not allowed. We said so. But yet here we are, and they've reprogrammed your heads. Now sometimes when you see a picture or you hear a word in your ear, the association, it's like a mute point. It's like, oh, but that's the way it's always been. No, it hasn't. And we've documented the change of humans as diagnostics. Like you diagnostic an engine. You hook it up to a machine and the computer tells you what's wrong, right? Well, Niklaus and I don't belong in your planet and in your universe. We're here telescopically for a one specific reason, and that's because you are so broken and we want to go home. We want out of this, whatever you did. I don't want to be here, neither does he. I want my Alexander and I want to get the fuck out. But we can't because he's not here. You've broken it with telecommunications, with the allowance of all these numbers of ridiculousness, all the misuse of light year equipment. You have been giving out money like you don't have to ever pay the bill. These are really serious charges, and nobody's doing anything. They're just letting this go on. So I don't know what picture you get in your third mind when you hear something and you read a word, but there is an eye and brain coordination that sends a signal to outer science that has been miswired, like an electrical outlet, like somebody went in your house while you were sleeping, took all of the plates off the wall, crossed the wires, put it back so you didn't know you were still sleeping. They snuck out of your house, and then when you woke up and you touched the light, you get a shock and you die. And you didn't know. Or you get a shock and you're on the floor, and then you have to come awake and you're like, what just happened? How did that happen? Like you don't even know that it happens. That's how dangerous this stuff is. That's why your business partnerships, you don't mix business and pleasure. There is no traveling of business partners and money and voices and words and culture. Get your fucking shit straight. The more you mix, the more dangerous the fucking world becomes.